Hello, everybody.
What's with the fist? What are we doing?
That means shut the fuck up.
I was being quiet.
Yeah, that means because whenever we run, whenever we go live, all the mics are live. So that means when I'm running the music in the background and you're talking about blowjobs or whatever, that's exactly what everybody's going to hear. So
that's what they came concerned about. Be more concerned about the whatever than.
Right. So this is The Challengers, a Mutants and Masterminds Silver Age superhero actual play, and we're going to do our our session 0, which is character and campaign design. My name is Eric, and I'm the game master. As I'm sitting, and you're looking at the screen, this is Jason, this is Shannon, this is Chris, and this is Babs. We are going to start off talking about, we may have one other, just so people are watching, we may have one other player, Brandon, who is running late. He may be able to pop on here, and if that happens, the view may get a little screwy, so I may have to go to a neutral page, so that way you guys, I can set all the cameras up again. So just if that happens, don't freak out, like, what the hell's wrong with these guys? We are not professional video. Well, most of us are not professional video people, so there might be some hiccups along the way, but that's fine. We're doing this mostly just because we love to play games, and we love superheroes in general. Okay. So,
wait, I was told this was a Wild West thing.
You are in the wrong place.
Oh,
but
your hero can be that.
Then again, this is Silver Age, so if you think about it, the
boys are superheroes.
1950s, 1960s era superheroes and pulp fiction are popular fiction, and television, whatnot. I mean, fucking Gunsmoke was on at all that time, right?
Oh, the Western comics.
Yeah,
so, I could be Batlash.
Right.
Batlash.
I don't even know what the hell that means, but
that's a DC cowboy.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So if you want to dress up in a cowboy outfit and whatever that's your superhero, that's fine. So those of you watching, we have not developed our characters yet, or at least the players have not developed their characters yet. We're actually going to do a session 0 where we determine a lot of this stuff. We won't actually create the characters online. Right now, we're not going to sit down and bore you all with everybody's choices of feats and shit like that. So, what we're going to do is mostly we're going to talk about the things that we do and don't want, and also some character concept ideas, power sets, things like that. If you are watching us, obviously on Twitch, you can join up on our chat. There's actually quite a few people on chat, so and I'm monitoring chat too. So if you have questions for the cast, they may or may not be monitoring chat. It depends on if they so desire, and if not, then that's fine. I can pass on information. Looks like Chris is on chat, so that's good too, and Shannon. So if you have questions for Jason or Babs, just pass it through any of us, and we can pass it along to them. So, without any further ado, let's go ahead and get started. We're going to, with this session 0, we're going to begin with a few of the metagame parameters and whatnot. I'm getting some sort of a weird noise.
Is somebody vacuuming in the background?
I believe that's Jason's garage.
There's no noise out here. It's completely silent.
Okay. Somebody's hacking. It must be the Russians. They're hacking into our already. They're hacking.
Already started.
Yes, they're trying to stop the challengers as we speak, before their inception. All right. So anyway, metagame tier level of this session 0 is, first of all, I want to set some framing parameters. Normally if this was like a D&D game or something like that, where it was completely open and whatnot, we would just say, perhaps what do you guys want to do? But there is some parameters here. We are going to be doing a superhero RPG. Gage says it sounds like there's a train in the background. Does anybody have a train going around?
No, I'm still pretty sure that's Jason.
Okay. Maybe let's mute Jason and see what happens. Oh, let's see. I threatened to mute Jason, and then it doesn't happen.
I swear to God, there's nothing on out here.
No, that's good.
It's your mic. It's just feedback from the room.
Is it maybe from my cell phone? Should I ditch my cell phone?
No. It's just there's nothing you can do to fix it. I don't think for right now.
Yeah, don't worry about it. Other than maybe muting yourself.
Oh, and
Oh, Brandon's in the chat.
yeah, Professor Farsparkles, that's me.
So anyway, we'll start with the framing parameters. Now, this is firm GM structure here. So essentially, we're playing a superhero RPG. Mutants and Masterminds is the game of choice. Now, that being said, and even though that we have billed it as a Mutants and Masterminds, does anyone have a problem with it being Mutants and Masterminds? I mean, we could. I mean, if somebody really wanted to play Hero or Savage World Supers or something like that, we could certainly change it because the game system is not set in stone. It's just we are going to play superheroes. So
I want to use the 1985 edition of the Marvel superhero game.
the old face rip, right? Okay.
Yeah.
I specifically do not want to play Hero.
Okay. Well, I guess the first question is, does anyone object to Mutants and Masterminds?
Having never played it, I have nothing to object to. So
Okay. I think personally, Mutants and Masterminds is kind of a happy medium between the crunch that is Hero System or Champions for you oldsters out there, or a lighter system such as Savage Worlds. It's kind of a happy medium. The other parameter is that I do want to set this in the Silver Age of Comics, which, for those of you who don't know what exactly that means, Silver Age of Comics is late 50s, talking around, like 50, let's say 55 to 65. I know that's not necessarily some comic scholars will probably debate that, forever, but, cause from what I understand, the birth of the Silver Age was, actually, I think the first appearance of the Flash. Is what they consider the birth of the Silver Age, which I think it might be like 56 or 57. So anyway, it's essentially the Cold War is, we're talking Eisenhower, we're talking, Truman era, we're talking, maybe even early Kennedy, era. So that, there's an age of American expansion, American innocence, and things like that. And that in that era of comics transitioned away from the tried and true, the red, white, and blue, American, World War II era comics that were geared towards kids and GIs to more of a post-war, audience. So, the other, hard parameter is this is going to be a weekly game. We're going to run it on Tuesdays, from 9 p.m., roughly 9 p.m. Central, till 11 p.m. Central. And, we will try and make that a hard start and a hard cutoff. So that way, we could be in the middle of a battle. We could be in the middle of, an RP or something like that. And if it's too much of a, if it looks like it's going to stretch, after, a couple minutes after 11, we're just going to cut it off. Gage, brings up that the comics code was the start of the Silver Age. It was certainly in that era. So yeah, the comics code, the seduction of the innocent, which I think was written in 55 or 56.
Yeah, but the guy that wrote that was an asshole.
So what?
Just saying.
So anyway, we are going to run weekly, on Tuesdays, 9 p.m. The only exceptions to those, to that scheduling will be that December 25th and January 1st fall on Tuesdays, and we are not going to play on those days. We may still do something, not necessarily the 25th, but maybe the 1st, but no structured game or anything like that. At least no challengers game. And then I'm estimating, hopefully, and this isn't a hard thing, but it's, we're looking at, somewhere around 10, game sessions, to wrap up the storyline. It could certainly
It's a limited series, is what you're saying? It's a comic limited series?
Right. It's a comic limited series, there's certainly options to expand or, if I didn't want the cast to feel like they were locked into something that they, just can't sustain. So we're going to shoot for 10 weeks, 10 episodes, and then after that we'll determine what we're going to do. But my plan is to have the story completed after 10 episodes. Okay, so that being said, we're done with the setup, at least the framing parameters from the GM standpoint. Now let's move into some other metagaming questions. There are. Grab a pen here. Okay. Are there any themes, subject matter, NPCs, story elements, stories, or whatnot that you want? That, is there something that you're, when I said, hey, we're going to play Silver Age superheroes or, agent level or, whatnot, what was the first thing you thought of? What is something like this setting? What does this have to have in your mind?
A Red Scare.
Okay. All right. So Red Scare, which, I'm assuming you're meaning, the threat of the, spread of communism and, nuclear, escalation.
Did you just say nuclear?
Nuclear.
Ugh. Yes.
Nuclear. Okay. So the threat of nuclear war. And the threat of communism.
Are you looking for things that are specific to that era in history, or are you looking for just certain themes in general?
Just certain themes in general. Do you want? All right. So if you're thinking in comic terms, okay. So we're talking, the beginning of the '60s era. So Fantastic Four. Gotta have, we gotta have, cosmic rays. We've gotta have, somebody who's, your group has to have a common origin, that kind of thing. These are the things that would help define what the things that I'm going to inject into the game itself. So.
I'd like to see at some point during the arc us realizing that the world has shades of gray, because I was kind of picturing this to be all very much of a black and white kind of thing that we'd be going through, but I'd like there to be something that puts us in a situation where we discover that perhaps it's actually more gray.
Okay, and that's kind of what I'm looking at is, if we're setting this, just picking a date, we're going to say 1960, okay? Then you're talking, 15 years after World War II. So the World War II Golden Age heroes are 15 years older or died off or whatever. And this is the second wave of superheroes, okay? And you're talking the Atomic Age. You're talking, the radioactive spiders. You're talking gamma bombs. These things are going to be the origin stories, So, realizing that there's shades of gray is perfect because, Greatest Generation, the golden age of comics, everything was black and white. You were fighting fascists, and that's what you were doing. It's punching Nazi, it's all of that stuff. Now the enemy isn't necessarily that overt and in your face. Maybe not everybody's wearing a uniform. Maybe everybody doesn't wear their affiliation on their sleeve, So, my mic is really quiet right now. So
It was quiet briefly, and then then there was like a loud thing, and then you were normal.
okay.
Yeah, it's going from low to really high.
All right. Let me check my audio settings.
Are you still hearing a train on my end or what?
No, you sound fine.
All right. I'm gonna
Okay.
I had it
I
so
still
it
hear
would
it
automatically adjust volume, and
Yeah, fuck that noise.
yeah. So I don't know if that's what was messing with it or not.
Okay, well, I have to move off frame for a minute. I just realized that when my lights went out, the power supply for my computer went off too. So I got to plug that back into a different extension cord.
Okay, go for
Okay,
it.
keep talking. I can still hear you.
Go for it. All right. So yeah. So sometime at some point, yes, Jason, it has the flag going. So what Chris said is at some point within this story, you realize maybe the people you thought were bad guys maybe weren't as bad, or maybe they have their own reasons for things. So more of a morality.
What the fuck is happening in there?
I don't know. But let me mute him so that way.
Yeah. You have to battle somebody to like get the lights going.
He's wrestling the cord away from a bear, apparently.
Yeah. What the fuck was that?
So,
Give me the cord back, bear.
all right. So, Babs, do you have anything? What are your thoughts? Because I mean, like I said, if you're looking at it from the perspective of the birth of things like Flash, then you're talking maybe Speed Force. You're talking other dimensions and whatnot. I don't know what he's doing.
It's not anything particular, no. At least I can't think of anything offhand. I trust you to run a good game. I'm sure that whatever I'm looking for is going to be in it. I can't think of a single thing that like specifically that I would want. I did like Chris's, he wants it to be kind of gray. I mean, I think the character that I've kind of been working on is pretty gray. Yeah, I like that. I can't think of, let's see. I'll just try to think of something, I guess.
Okay. Well, we can always come.
You have to come back to me because I can't think of anything.
I got another question related to this then. So are we thinking, and maybe we're getting ahead of ourselves, but are we thinking that our heroes, are they on the tail end of this era change, or are we part of this new era of heroes that's coming up? Because I'm wondering if, and it depends, if there is things about challenging authority that could end up coming in there. If we're like the old guard, or even if we're like this new thing that's coming in, if we're the ones who are challenging that authority. I don't know. I'm just throwing that out there. I'm not saying I'm looking for that, but I'm just wondering if that's an element that's worth playing with.
Well, that's certainly something. I mean, because if you're also thinking about that era, just in history, especially American history, you're talking, not everybody liked Ike, right? So sure, American prosperity was great, but you also had the birth of things like the civil rights movement. You also had the Beats, which turned into the hippie counterculture. Those kind of things. So if you wanted to play on those themes of maybe an emerging change in social consciousness within America, that's totally fine. Having the benefit of hindsight, we can really play with a lot of these things, because what we're doing is, for most of us, is we're playing in an era that, we don't really truly, we didn't live through it. So we're just going through what we know through history class, social media, and talking to like our parents and grandparents. So I'm not suggesting that we're going to be completely, historically accurate at any point, but certainly, this, challenge of authority, because you have the old guard of the old, especially the old, military intelligence structure and the birth of the CIA, all that other stuff. In this time frame, you would have had the experimentation with LSD with through the CIA, all of that stuff. So
MK Ultra.
yeah, exactly. So, Shannon, what about you? Any subject matter, NPCs, story thoughts that you have?
Well, I was just trying to talk and then realized I was muted.
Oh.
I love a good conspiracy theory, or like kind of what you were talking about, like with the LSD experiments and stuff like that, and stuff where it's kind of like, maybe this is going on, maybe it's not, maybe the people we're fighting for are kind of a little bit evil too.
Okay. So, good guys, not so good. That kind of goes with that Shades of Grey. Okay.
Yeah, that's a pretty good blanket for a lot of stuff.
Sure. For a 10-week, game. Sure. Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, we're going to be, I don't know exactly how our team's going to be based on. I'm assuming, the government's going to be involved a lot. And, during that time, I like stories that show them doing a lot of really dark, seedy shit. Cause it's a little bit more interesting. Maybe we're going to stop something from happening, but really we actually caused something that was intended. Like so like some double cross twists or something like that.
I love stuff like that.
But now we know what's coming. Shit, can't do that now. Throw it out.
Yep. Oh, yeah. Spoilers. All right. Okay. What about it? For the group, any NPCs, villain types, anything like that, with the conspiracy thing. I mean, you can have the one single Bond-like villain mastermind behind things. You can have organization. You could have Hydra. You could have aliens. I mean, these are different options that all falls within that like 1950s, early 60s sci-fi,
Yeah, I like the idea of a clear cut bad guy, like someone who's doing bad things. I mean, they don't necessarily always have to be doing bad things, but I like the idea of having like a clear enemy. Yeah, I mean, that's Silver Age. That's
okay. All right.
I'm a big fan of like the group, like having Hydra, like maybe Hydra, maybe our main enemy is the leader, but then we still have to deal with the whole group and their minions as well.
So maybe you know who the villain is. Maybe you just don't know who exactly he is. Maybe he's like a Cobra Commander. He wears a mask or something.
Sure, and he has a retinue of moderately powered lieutenants that lead the goons.
Well, yeah, you have to have that. I mean, it's bad guy 101.
Okay, all right.
Are we doing like any kind of alternate history type thing, like, or is it going to be? I mean, obviously, superpowers aren't historical in real world, but is it going to be based in reality? Like superpowers based in reality, or is it going to be alternate history?
Well, that's an excellent question. What do you guys want to do? I mean, that's what I get. What I'm taking from this question is, are you going to be? Were there superheroes before you?
Sure. Yeah. What if there were superheroes before us, or like somebody mentioned JFK in the chat? What if JFK wasn't assassinated? What if that was stopped or something? Or like a different.
What if he was assassinated by our main bad guy?
Yeah,
virtual
adept. Yeah, right. Oswald was really a patsy for the faceless villain.
Yeah,
and it wasn't the mob.
Maybe the magic bullet was actually somebody's superpower,
or was actually a magic bullet.
Was actually a magic bullet.
Yeah.
So like not necessarily a Forrest Gump type thing where you're like encountering famous people and things like that, but so I guess the question would be, what is the prevalence of superpowers? Okay, like you said, are you guys the only superpowered group there ever has been, or are you like a continuation of maybe a World War II era superpower group.
I believe there was a group in World War II that included Captain America and Sissy Birmingham.
So that's completely possible. What they're talking about or alluding to is a home campaign ran by our friend Mike, who ran a World War II era superhero game, keeping it within that shared universe. That's certainly a possibility. What that would also mean is that you would have 2 or 3 people in the game who would get the inside joke references and no one else who would. So then that's fine. But
yeah, I know nothing about that. So any joke they threw out, I'd be like, okay, like I don't get the fuck you're talking about. You'd have to explain it every time what you're referencing, and I don't know.
Or we wouldn't have to explain it. I don't see why we would have to explain it every time. You can still reference characters that have come in the past that you may not necessarily know anything about.
Yeah, but if you have no reference of background at all about the character, what's the point? Like, you're mentioning a character that, like, if you'd never heard of Superman and you just brought up some guy who flies around, it's like, okay, so
but
what?
Everybody's heard of Superman.
That's my point. No one's heard of your characters.
But when you say the name Captain America, it kind of gives you an idea who we're talking about.
Right. And here's an option that I was going to ask is, the secrecy of everything. Okay, and that's something that's especially with superheroes, especially of that era. Did superheroes exist before, but nobody knew about it because it was all covered up by the military? Because it was all, World War II era stuff, and nobody knew about it, so no one would know who Captain America is. Because,
like, there's tales of these feats that may not be true.
So it's,
except for the 200,000
Bigfoot and Captain America,
Except for the 200,000 GIs that saw him flying on the beaches of Normandy with his legs bent to his waist.
Yeah. That would be, it would be an old wives' tale that people, like old veterans are talking about. I remember the time I saw Captain America, and you're like, dude, you're suffering blood loss,
I like the idea that, or playing with the idea that, have they always existed in this numbers, or is it just because of better diagnosis sort of scenario where perhaps because of the era that our people would have grown up in, those types of secrets were much easier to control, and maybe there were always heroes and people with abilities, but they either kept it secret or the government co-opted them and turned them into agents either willingly or unwillingly. And maybe that's part of what's happening, is that some of those walls are breaking down, and thus there is an authority, the U.S. government in this case, that fears what would happen should that knowledge get out. It's kind of a spin off the whole syndrome thing from The Incredibles, where he wants to let this stuff out, but there are those who are trying to keep that genie in the bottle for fear that will disrupt the social structure that currently exists.
Well, not only that, but you're also talking about, right in the midst of the Red Scare and the Cold War. So any powered asset that the United States would have, the Russians would be very keen on getting a hold of. So the American government would probably keep them under lock and key. Kind of like the Flashpoint Superman, where he's kept under Metropolis so they could, do testing on him and stuff like that.
Yeah.
We're talking Roswell level stuff.
I like it both ways. I think you could do it either way. If we were one of many, where we'd have to have something that sets us apart. It'd be more of we're a brand, right? As opposed to, we're this anomaly that shows up every now and then. I don't know. I don't know why I kind of like the idea there's more heroes out there, because that leaves it up to more interactions with superpowered people. And that leaves it to, like, you could just create random generated people that would show up or be like, we would fight or whatever. Because if it's limited, I mean, there's only going to be like a handful of really like big name things. I don't know. I think I'd rather have it. There's more than the scarcity.
Okay.
So really the question is, are superheroes in mainstream newspapers and on the radio, or are they in like tabloids? Right?
Right.
So, I mean, one way or the other, if they're in tabloids, they're rumored, maybe they're not real and it's all just made up bullshit. Right. And if they're in, the Post-Dispatch or the Daily Bugle, then obviously that must be legit.
Well, there's also...
I vote for mainstream if we put it to that kind of vote, because I like that idea, but I like the idea that they are special, but then again, maybe they're ultimately not special in a certain way.
I like the mainstream because that goes with my character idea. Because some of the stuff wouldn't work if it wasn't known that I was some kind of superhero.
Okay, well, let's put another tweak to that. So, okay, so they are mainstream. Okay, maybe they're in the New York Times and there's stories of them and whatnot. You could always go the boys route too, where you have the superheroes, and sure, they make the papers and things like that, but most of the stories about them are fabricated in comic books. So, you're a superhero and you appeal to the kids because through the comic books, and you're making headlines, and you may or may not even be doing some of these things. Maybe there's multiple people wearing the same costume, that kind of thing. And, where they're trying to perpetuate this brand, like you're saying. And you guys, maybe you're part of this machine and you don't want to be part of it anymore. That could be part of your challenging of authority is, I'm tired. I want to actually be a hero. I don't want to be, I don't want to stand here and shake, I
want to be a free agent.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like a free agent of heroes, maybe they had to be these teams, and just now they're starting to break up and be their own thing. And they're still teams, but they're on their own accord as opposed to they're forced to be on a team with each other.
Right.
I like that.
Okay. So kind of touched on how society.
Gage makes a good point. He says free agent equal dead agent.
Well, that's certainly when it comes to like the Cold War stuff. If you're a free agent, and up until this point, the CIA was keeping you under lock and key, or at least keeping very close tabs on you. And now all of a sudden, you don't want to be affiliated with them anymore. Yeah, we could probably all speculate what happens to those kind of people. So, all right. So prevalence of powers, we're saying that powers aren't necessarily like everybody on the planet doesn't have powers. But they're and they're not common. So it's not like you have every neighborhood has their own superhero, but it's one of those things where maybe one in a city, or in a big city like New York or something like that, there would probably be a handful or maybe a half dozen or something like that. Is that, am I picking up correctly?
I don't know. I'm kind of intrigued by the idea of every neighborhood having a superhero.
Well, you can certainly. I mean, I'm talking powered superhero, not necessarily just a Cape Crusader or something like that.
Oh yeah, you're still gonna have vigilantes or people that are beating people up in costumes. It's just like in like the Watchmen or something, where earlier age there wasn't really many superpowers. There's just people beating people up and protecting, and then eventually turned into there were many more superpowered beings. Or not many, I guess, but you know what I'm saying. There are more superpowers than there were to begin with.
Right. And I know, Jason, you like comics like Legion of Superheroes and things like that, where there's like, you do a full team picture of a 2-page spread and there's 7,000 superheroes.
Yeah.
But then you run the risk of being associated with douchebags like Matter Eater Lad and shit like that.
Hey, that's a legitimate power.
Bouncing boy. These are legitimate powers. And so I guess, all right, if there's, let's say you do that, where there's more than just a couple superheroes, there's maybe plenty of superheroes. What about like a tier system? You have, your Class A superhero, which would be your, Justice League level, and then tapered down to your, all the way
Your
down.
mystery men level.
Yeah, to like your dog welder level. You know.
Dog welder.
You know.
What is a dog welder?
Oh, you never read Hitman, did
He
you?
welds dogs.
Yeah.
He welds dogs to people, right?
Yep.
So, we could certainly have something like that too, if that's. I mean, I'm hearing not a whole lot of superheroes. I'm hearing. So what's the group consensus?
I would rather do fewer superheroes.
Well, I think fewer legit superheroes makes sense, but then you got all these copycat people, like what I'm saying, the neighborhood superheroes, the guy that just decides to, cut holes out of a bucket and put it on his head and grab a trash can lid and go out and fight crime is,
Oh yeah.
the super hobo or whatever.
Oh yeah, I'm about that. Like non superpowered people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's super homeless.
Kick-ass, like Virtual Adept says. Like Virtual Adept, like kick-ass, yeah.
Super homeless and super hungry.
Super
That's right.
homeless.
And that's probably the headline every night is, area man killed in superhero related accident where he's, going out and being a vigilante and he gets his ass beat by real criminals.
Right, or shot. Right.
Mm-hmm.
He's trying to stop bullets with a trash can lid.
Exactly. That does not work.
I can't do this all day.
Right. So there are reject superheroes, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
I really want Jason to play Super Hobo now.
I know, I was going to say it, but I didn't want to have to throw that out there.
I am Super Hobo. Right. You could have the hobo throwing stars, which are soup lamps.
Made of they're from cans of beans and shit.
Can lids, or can tops.
If you don't play this, I'm going to be so disappointed.
He has incredible disguise powers. He can hide in a pile of trash.
That's right. He wears a trash ghillie suit. Right.
Excellent camouflage.
Is there somebody out there?
There's
No,
a bunch
there's
of
just
blind bags tied together.
There's trash and a dead cat out there. That's it. And that's part of his outfit. Is he's got a dead cat tied to him.
He was just here, I swear.
His superpower is big.
That's right. He's got an odor power. Right.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
I beat myself.
That's right. No, you have your own facilities, right?
Exactly. And I think it's pronounced facilities.
Facilities, right.
Right.
And he can produce random amounts of change at a drop of a hat.
That's right.
Okay, we got Jason's character figured out.
All right.
And he can cloud your windshield with spit.
That's right. His rag.
Right.
Jesus.
I am not playing Super Hobo.
Way to be a party pooper, Jason. Come on, this is a team effort here.
That's right, you're ruining it for everyone.
Run with it, Babs.
All right. So yeah, we got quite a bit.
I got a good idea.
Interesting stuff there. So okay, I think we answered a lot of that stuff. Okay, now now that we got all of that out of the way, are there any themes, subject matter, NPCs, things like that you do not want? Now we're talking moral boundaries here. We're talking things that you absolutely, under no circumstances, do you want in this game.
No.
Okay, I mean, for the sake of decorum, it's certain, things like, the really bad stuff, rape, assault on children, things like that. I mean, I wouldn't do that anyway in this level of a game.
That's why I didn't mention them, because I didn't figure you'd do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, there's some things trigger people, and I just want to make sure that there's nothing that is completely out of bounds besides the overtly. I mean, the bad guys here. These aren't Charles Bronson bad guys. Okay, we're not talking gritty. Or this isn't the Kingpin, right?
That was the whole idea for my character I had.
What, the
Charles Bronson.
Oh, Charles Bronson.
Really? Or are you just saying
I'm
that?
kidding. I was joking.
So, okay.
Well, let me ask you just so I have kind of a mental threshold in my head here. When we talk about violence against kids, where is your age threshold when it comes to kids?
Oh, once they hit 13, then
well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. So, like, if it's a situation where the bad guy might be beating up on, say, like a 15-year-old, is that too young?
Well, okay. When I say I'm not talking, when I say beating like a bad guy, smacking a kid or something like that, that's completely different. I'm talking like like egregious stuff against children.
Gotcha.
Things that make people uncomfortable even thinking about. I'm not going to do any of that stuff.
This time.
Yeah.
I'm going to keep it. I'm going to keep it.
I don't think it fits the setting.
Yeah.
Right. Even if we were open to the idea, it just doesn't fit. It doesn't fit the setting at all.
Right.
I'm not saying I was open to the idea. I was just trying to find out where that line was placed. That's all.
We all know what you were looking for, Chris.
Chris really wanted to beat some kids.
Yeah.
Actually, I didn't want them beaten as much as I just want them verbally abused.
Well,
I mean, I feel like that's fair game.
Yeah. Yeah. DCFS. We're not going to play a DCFS game. So, okay, but building off of that, because it is a thing. And if we're talking, like I said, we're not going to be completely historical here, but, it is certainly a thing, or was certainly more of a thing, especially at this time. And we're talking about, racism and sexism. Now, I don't plan on doing any, overtly racist or sexist things. But what's your feelings on that kind of stuff? I'm talking like Don Draper level stuff. Hey babe, hey, that kind of thing. Or, there was racial segregation at this point in time, things like, heroes of color, are we going to, because we have the ability to go back and we're doing this alternate history, we could play with that a little bit and make things a little bit more progressive. If that's something you would be interested in, or we could just completely not even address it. If that's,
I actually would like I would like it to exist in the sense that we have the opportunity as heroes to do something against it, and to give you like I don't know, this might be a really bad example, but if in the movie A League of Their Own, which obviously is already a movie dealing with sexism. Mm-hmm. There's that scene in there where that black woman throws the ball back to Gina Davis's character, and it just goes halfway across the field when she throws it. And it's just a very, very short, powerful scene that addresses this dynamic that existed there, and was a very, very good scene. I mean, it proved a certain point. And so I'm kind of looking for something like that. I would like to have the opportunity that we might be able to address that in a certain way. You know what I mean? Like that is some sort of obstacle we are able to deal with or overcome, if that makes sense.
I like that idea, Chris. I think if we try to rewrite history, it does that part of our history a disservice. And I don't think it should not exist in what we're doing. And we also want to make this light and fun. We don't want to make it real heavy, but I think to acknowledge that, if given the opportunity, would be a good way to tell a story.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
If I have to play a woman, I do not want any sexism directed at me.
Okay.
Well,
player to player, or are you talking about can a bad guy call you toots and you can sock him one?
As long as I get to sock him thoroughly, probably in the dick. Wait, what's the rating on this?
Oh,
can I say dick?
That's a.
Well, I don't know. We've already said fuck about 15 times.
I'm not too worried about that.
I would prefer you say penis, Shannon, please.
Or
in the
member
tickle snake.
It's in the member.
The tickle snake.
I like that. Babs,
baby.
That sounds like a villain. Tickle snake.
Tube snake or golden lasso only.
That's kind of my character, tickle snake.
Gage makes a perfect point. I said I only wanted to have a bad guy call me something sexist if I can punch him in the dick, and then Gage says, "But you can't roll," and he's completely right. I'd be so upset if someone called me Toots and then I go to punch him and roll a 1 because that's what Shannon
there
does.
Because you know what
Yeah.
they say when you roll a 1, you rub up against him, and so I mean,
Oh my god. Is there a power that like would empower you against the opposite sex?
Yeah.
that would make you like stronger against the opposite sex.
Like men, yeah. Like
Yeah.
she could.
You could like take favorite enemy men. You could be
There
a
you go.
man hater.
Favorite enemy of the patriarchy.
Maybe your name is matriarch.
Maybe. I feel like that's too much pressure.
That's too on the nose.
Okay. So next is next thing I'd like to talk. So yeah, I'm okay with that. We could maybe inject some things that you could show that you are the better people in that those around you maybe expect you to act a certain way about a certain group of people or collection of people, and you rise above that. Okay. All right. Now addressing something maybe certainly a lot less heavy than that. What about how should we handle within game the removal of PCs in that? What about character death? What about incapacitation, which does happen in Mutants and Masterminds, and possibly even capture, if you're especially dealing with a enemy, a rogue enemy force of some sort.
Normally, I would be all about character death, but because of the setting we're doing, I feel like it makes more sense for us to be captured than killed in a lot of ways.
As far as Mutants and Masterminds goes rules-wise, it is incredibly difficult to kill a PC.
Yeah.
I absolutely want the threat of character death. I'm 100% serious. I want the option. Not the option, but I want the fear of death.
I'm usually all about it, but I don't know. I mean, yeah, okay. I mean, I'm down. Whatever anybody wants to do.
But and I am too. I mean, if you guys really don't want that, I can live with that, so to speak.
No, you can kill me. I don't care.
Yeah, I like character death.
Well, and then herein lies the question: what if session 1, shit happens and 3 out of the 4 of you are dead?
Roll up new clues.
So
just
roll up new characters and just roll with that. Okay.
Yeah.
I think especially since we are a government-funded group, it would make sense that the government would put people in to replace them, so to speak.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't want to put handcuffs on Eric. I want Eric to be able to kill us if he feels there's a need.
This is the first time he's ever said that.
He always feels there's a need. What are you talking about?
I'm just trying to butter him up so he'll kill you guys and not me.
Hey, you remember our first session for our D&D game? Or our Pathfinder game, I'm sorry.
Virtue Adept actually makes a good point. He said villains are like the 66 Batman, where they want to capture the heroes to put them in an improbable death trap.
Right.
Yeah, that's where my mind was.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
I wanted some kind of escapable event if we get
right. And there's
beat
actually a rule in the Game Master's guide for Mutants and Masterminds 3rd edition where it talks about that, where you actually you capture the player characters, and then the player characters can spend hero points to prolong the monologue, so they can come up with a plan on how to get the hell out of this elaborate death plan or whatever. So the villains, revealing all of the their plans as they're standing there,
So if players get captured, or like just if one player gets captured, would we be willing to like do a solo stream on another day or something like that? Is that something you wanted to do, or would it just be handled?
Well, that would be difficult because of the logistics of it all. It would, because then it's like, when is somebody available? When is, when are we not doing other things?
Right.
Setting a one night to do things is not such a big deal. I don't know. Let's see. I'm thinking, well, what we could do is maybe set it up so set it up a little early, maybe run a little bit earlier than our 9 o'clock, so let's say anybody locally, it's not such a big deal if we ran something a little earlier in the night just for like one person, just to kind of set the stage for the big group, to kind of do stuff.
I think that works.
You just don't capture Chris and everything.
So Chris gets the plot, the plot shield. So
and plus too, if those nights are happening, I can always try and sneak away from work a little earlier.
That's right. You fake a stomach cramp, you lick your palms. Right.
That's right.
Someone just needs to be sure to take the power or the skill or whatever, interpose, so that they can go in Chris's place.
That's right. Haha, it was me the whole time. Right.
I interpose. I'm going to get captured.
Right. It was, it's Captain Trash Can.
Jason.
Is that Captain Hobo's sidekick?
No, it's Captain Trash Can and Bum Rush.
Yeah, Bum Man. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm all about that.
So, some specific GM wants at the metagame level, there is going to be levity to this game, and those of you who are watching this, you could probably pick that up already, that we're not going to be completely serious. This isn't going to be one of those games where, we're all, hardcore,
Swear to me.
Yeah.
I'm going to be the most hardcore.
Right. Hardcore.
I'm going to talk in my Batman voice the whole time.
My character is not hardcore at all.
Yeah.
Whatsoever.
Right. So, and I think that's going to make it fun. It's going to make the game a lot more fun. That being said, I do want some serious undertones. So, there could be a morality, not necessarily like I'm not fucking Aesop or anything like that, but I'm just saying that, there is a point to what we're doing. We're not just going to be doing chaotic shit and maybe the villain is a little bit more serious than the heroes are. There's going to be a counterbalance a little bit to some of the levity from the group, I'm thinking. And that's going to come at the plot level, I think. Also, specific, GM wants is, from you guys, this is something that I'm asking of you, is that I would much rather, sit here all night and have a 2-hour RP session than worry about roles and rules and things like that. We're going to play a game. There's rules. There's going to be rules, but I don't want you guys to feel like we need to move on, and, get to rolling something.
Brandon.
When there's a lot of,
what the fuck?
Bust. No, I'm not saying that we just sit there and vamp all night either. I'm not just saying we just sit there, but I'm
Shannon.
So.
I mean, that's fair.
But what I'm saying is I would prefer it rather than, relying on roles to settle things and, role play it out, So that's something that I'm asking you. So role play, greater than rules.
Wait, does that mean I can't roll and say my character says something charismatic? I have to actually be charismatic?
Not necessarily. I mean, because I mean, everybody's limited to who they are in real life, so it's not.
Yeah.
You could.
So what you're saying is that's never going to happen for you, shit.
So,
right. That's why I need to roll to be charismatic. It's important.
I say something suave as fuck. That's an actual canon quote.
Yeah. A lot. It happens a lot.
That and I don't know how to say this, but my character does.
Yeah.
Right. So in those cases, that's fine. You're making the role and, you're getting across what you're wanting to say, but I do want you to play in character more than not.
As long as I don't have to be charismatic, I can be in character.
Like you're making it.
That was some serious feedback.
Yeah, I'm not sure who that was.
Chris.
Is it me this time?
I don't know.
Yeah, it was you this time.
So, yeah, I
He
mean,
turned on his Sibian.
yeah, turn your Sibian off, Chris. Turn it
There's a
off.
herd of caribou going by.
Not while we're doing this. Come on, man.
He's a caribou riding a Sibian. What the fuck is going on?
This isn't live cams. This is Twitch.
That's right. This is a Twitch.
Hit the wrong power
this is a
level.
superhero game. Control yourself. All right. So, and last step on the metagame questions is there anything on do's and don'ts that you want from each other? You know, some of you have played, well, we've all played together, you know, in a game or two. Is there something that you would like someone to do or something that you would rather they don't do? And I'm not trying to put anybody on the spot, just, you know, if something comes to mind. You know, like, if we were playing Star Wars, someone would say, well, Jason, you've got to play a smuggler. Because that's your bit. You know, so.
I don't want Shannon to stab us in the back.
Okay, I won't.
And I don't want Shannon to be able to name her own character.
What?
No.
Wow.
Damn,
harsh.
that's a pretty harsh one. God damn.
Well, I think the reason being is because we're going to play next week and Shannon still won't have a character name.
I mean, to be fair, that happens all the time.
So it should be expected, is what you're saying.
Yeah. I mean, my first Mutants and Masterminds character still doesn't have a superhero name.
I thought she was Mind Rita.
That was what Jason called her. I never named her.
Because that's a great fucking idea. That's why.
Oh, yeah.
That makes sense. You don't even need one. Like, you don't really need one if it was in World War II, right?
Yeah. Well,
yeah, so, I mean, would you have a superhero name?
That's what I had kind of said because she was, you know, your typical, like, she's an orphan. She doesn't have any attachments. So she didn't really need one.
I think my favorite part of that character was the still that you used for her character picture
of the girl getting
her hair was getting pulled.
It was getting caught in a machine. Like,
yeah, it was great. It was my favorite picture ever.
Okay.
And she was like,
any other do's or don'ts before we move on to the
Gage suggested, what if everyone named each other's character?
No.
Well,
That would devolve really.
No.
That falls within the parameter of you never get to pick your own nickname, because otherwise there'd be nobody named Booger or Stank.
Yeah, I'm going to go hard pass on that.
Yeah. Virtual Adept says everyone should dress and cosplay like their character. So, Jason, if you are the trash man...
You're gonna wear a glad bag next week.
what I do is turn the camera on,
glad bag vest.
see how junky my garage is right now.
That's right. He lives in a dump.
He says that, but his garage is usually what most would consider immaculate.
No, it is. I'll turn the camera around, Babs. I'll do it.
Don't make me turn this camera around.
Don't threaten me with a good time.
All right, so moving on to the game tier. That was all metagame stuff. Okay, so now the game tier. Some framing parameters for that is for the initial setup. I would like someone to play either a super scientist, a gadgeteer, and or a super rich somebody, or somebody with ties to the CIA. Okay, so. And this could be an NPC. So if nobody wants to play the super scientist, but nobody wants to be Reed Richards, that's fine. But if in that case, then you would have to have an NPC either in your group or working for you who is either your Q or your, Mr. Fox or whatever, your inventor or your CIA liaison.
From a character concept, at least that is how I'm thinking about it now, my character seems like he would be a good choice to be someone who has ties to the CIA. I didn't picture him to be a gadgeteer or super rich. I don't know if you wanted all of those things in one, but if you're looking for just ties to the CIA, I think that my character would fit that bill.
Okay.
Yeah, you're not trying to mix them, are you? It's just one.
If somebody wanted to be a super scientist gadgeteer who's super rich and with ties to the CIA, that's fine. If that one person wanted to do all that stuff, that's totally fine.
I thought
one of each either. You can just, as long as one of those bases is covered.
I think I'll be super rich. It fits with my character concept.
So Babs be super rich, and then Chris, what did you say was yours?
Ties to the CIA.
And then Chris has ties to the CIA. Okay.
The idea that I was kicking around in my head was not really Silver Age per se, but it's more pulpy, which I know is from a couple decades before. But
sure. I
think those things were still popular, at least in comics, in the 50s. I was thinking like Flash Gordon, Captain Comet, not really Buck Rogers and Flash Gordon necessarily, but a more modern superhero that I can think of that would kind of fit the bill of what I'm thinking of doing is, I say modern, it's more from our era, Booster Gold.
Okay. Like come from the future?
Kind of a time traveler that's got future tech, and he may not understand it all necessarily, but he makes
That's totally my scrapped character. Jason, I'll just give you my scrapped character.
Oh, okay, cool. What was his name?
Chad.
Chad. Okay.
His literal superhero name was Chad. His real name was Brad.
What?
I'll have to tell you some other time. I don't want to go through with this.
All right. So yeah. All right. So a gadgeteer, a futuristic gadgeteer. Bab's character is super rich, and Chris's character has ties to the CIA, so that's perfect. That kind of fits. That way we can at least get it started in kind of the direction that I wanted to go with the first adventure or with the first episode. The only other hard parameter that I want on a character level or as a group level is that I want you to have an island super base in international waters. So a la, Johnny Quest. So, you have they have to come to you and go, oh, hey, we've got this job for you, or, you have a rocket.
Can like the cover story for this island be like an offshore casino that Babs's character would own and operate?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So it's an offshore casino for the rich and like the uber rich.
Yes.
Somewhere
we only accept yachts, and they have to be a certain size, which is gargantuan. Otherwise,
That's right.
Turn around.
Your micro yacht can't come here. So somebody rowing up on a dinghy, you're like, get out of here.
Somewhere between the Florida Keys and Cuba.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, the Bay of Pigs like launches from your island base, right?
No, because if that had launched from our island, it would have succeeded.
Well, if they would have used you, it would have succeeded.
Oh, okay.
Well, Chris has ties to the CIA, so he's okay. So those are my only hard parameters that I want, and it sounds like you guys are okay with filling those bills. All right. So now, as for in-game group questions, what exactly or what would you like for this group to be? Okay. What I'm talking about is, do you have a shared origin story, or are you, were you assembled from different things? I mean, obviously, if Jason's a time traveler from the future who has futuristic gadgets, then, are you all futuristic travelers? Are you, or do you all have separate origin stories? And if you do any of you have, meshing? Because that's the thing I would like for everybody's origin story, or at least have some sort of personal connection with each other, whether it be family or like Fantastic Four. Their family, and then the one bud that hangs out, who flies their shit.
It's hard to say if we would have a shared origin story without knowing more about everybody's concept. My initial reaction, obviously, then would be that we're assembled maybe from component groups, like just as an example, knowing just the tiny little smidgen that I know about Bab's character, somehow or another, maybe perhaps my character ended up having to go after him to either capture him or investigate him. And then because of my CIA connections, I actually ended up recruiting him into the agency, realizing that whatever powers he had were better put to use in this fashion, and it allowed him to keep his operation that he had going.
Okay.
And so then that way, then like Babs and I were together, and then somehow we ended up meeting up with this other group of 2 or 3.
I like that idea. Like we have like a friendship through like an old tussle.
Yeah.
So
Are we gonna
former enemies
talk-
who are now friends.
Frenemies.
How about through Chris's connections in the CIA and Babs's? I'm assuming Babs would be a well-known figure because he's, like what the hell's that guy's name? The aviator.
Oh,
Howard Hughes.
Hughes. So you're like a public figure, but Chris sees an opportunity to start a group that would give the government the ability to say, no, that wasn't us. It was Howard Hughes that funded this, but it's actually government money that's being funneled into Babs's operation that keeps it kind of afloat. And it's kind of like a super secret, government funded thing. But is that me?
No,
that was Chris.
that was Chris.
Sorry, was I chewing too loud? My bad.
No, it was feedback again.
Yeah, that was it.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know.
My character, to give you an idea, so my character, is not like Iron Man at all, but the want for fame and stuff like that is very much Tony Stark. So I'm all about being out there. My own PR man.
And maybe that's how I got into it. My character has all this futuristic tech, and Babs recognizes right away that that's not from this century. It may not even be from this earth. And let's go recruit that guy because he wants to get a closer look at it.
Okay. All right. So, Shannon, that leaves you. What are your thoughts on this?
She fit the demographic.
I'm affirmative action.
Sorry. Sorry.
No sexism, Babs.
Yeah,
What?
Brandon.
We needed to balance out this sausage fest.
Now, if she plays a dude.
Well, here's the thing. Maybe we do need to start talking about character, like character powers and things like that to kind of get build off of this dynamic. Having this shared history is fine. Maybe we could develop it a little bit more if we knew what everybody's power sets were, what you're thinking, or what concepts maybe you have. So who wants to go first on that?
Me.
Okay, go.
Time traveler. Not necessarily from the future, but he's been to the future.
Oh,
Acquired-
okay.
Acquired some things and then came back. Or maybe he's lost in time.
What about
Doc Brown.
Because you're talking about maybe he's not from the future. You take the whole mix of Booster Gold and Green Lantern, and you found a guy who came from the future. Maybe in Roswell, New Mexico, and you took his shit. Maybe you don't know what it all does.
And when they found him, he had a great big rock on his head.
It's like he materialized in this rock. I mean, that's just a thought. I mean, certainly, it's just, if you want to be from the future and be a man out of time, that's fine. You could certainly work with that.
Well, I was thinking it wouldn't necessarily have to be tech. I mean, I'm thinking there would be tech involved, but there could also be that visited the future, or, he's come back from the future or whatever. And as a result of that, maybe he's gotten some other powers and abilities far beyond those of mortal men while he was there, comes back and he's changed. He's different. I don't know if that means necessarily stronger or faster. I mean, ideally that's usually how it works, but, it could be a combination of, some enhancements that he's gotten, and he's also got some futuristic tech that kind of sets him apart from, other people.
Okay. All right.
And yes, I am tying this into all my other superhero characters that I've played.
Well, that's fine. If you want a consistency amongst your personal canon, that's fine.
That's the main reason I was gunning for the shared history of the old team was for Jason.
No, yeah, that's fine. I mean, I always like to do little throwbacks to past stuff anyway. So I mean, I'm okay with some of that stuff. Who wants to go? All right. So any specific like main power, Jason, or is it something? Or are you looking for? Because what I'm planning on doing is we're going to make these characters, and we can actually like talk about what power sets you want, and we can get the characters made away from the game night. So are we talking like you have an array of powers that are from this like a specific gadget, or is it like you have like a bunch of different gadgets on a belt, or is it some sort of like alien or at least super like far advanced like a skin or an object that you have? Does it have intelligence? Like a computer AI intelligence or something like that.
I like the idea of it's like a nanite suit.
Okay. Like a skin tight nanite suit.
So like Man-O-War style, or?
You mean like Iron Man?
No, like Man-O-War, where he was.
Oh, XO. Sorry. Yeah. I was blank for a second there. XO Man-O-War. Is that what that is? Yeah.
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 Where he was a warrior from the past that now has a futuristic suit and
something like that. Sure.
Okay. So
what was he, a Viking or something?
I think he was.
No.
It's been a long time since I read an XO comic, so I'm not sure.
All right.
And I think they changed his origin a couple times too, so I'm not entirely sure what his current status is.
Yeah. So a alien or super advanced power suit with.
Yeah.
All right. So any specific powers you want this thing to have?
Completely invulnerable.
Yeah, ain't gonna happen.
Can lift
the powers of a god.
Can lift the Titanic up out of the water.
An advanced charcoal filter on the ass.
No, that's the only thing he doesn't have. It intensifies it.
Right. It actually has. Yeah, it actually doesn't exit the suit at all; just recirculates.
Yeah.
It's what fuels the suit.
Right.
Yeah.
That's because in the future they only breathe methane.
That's right.
And they recycle everything, so yeah.
Right. All right. So super strength, some invulnerability.
Maybe a blast power.
Blast. Okay.
I don't want it to be super complicated.
Okay, that's fine.
Make it simple.
Sure.
Because Jason's dumb.
Do you want to be able to fly?
Yeah.
Okay, so flight, blast.
You just want it all, huh, Jason?
Okay.
Well, I mean, as long as I can fly fast enough that my legs don't bend at the waist.
Okay. All right, so we can certainly handle that. So Jason is the gadgeteer from the future, or at least future tech, that he doesn't necessarily completely understand, and that would maybe give the opportunity for advancement, or at least harnessing different powers. We can work
like maybe he doesn't control it all the time either. Like sometimes the suit just takes over and does what it wants to do.
Oh, kind of like the Spider's suit in the Spider-Man. So like you have the training wheels still on,
or like Blue Beetle,
or like Cyborg from Justice.
This all sounds like Blue Beetle.
Not all of it, Babs. Shh.
Okay, sorry. I mean, I love Blue Beetle, so I
do too.
Okay, who wants to go next?
I'll go.
Okay.
Okay, so what I'm thinking of for my guy is his two primary powers, or his ultimate primary power is all illusion based.
Okay.
And that it's generating visual and audio illusions to the point where he messes with people's senses. The best way I'm trying to describe this is did you ever see the movie Battle Beyond the Stars with John Boy Walton? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember the ship in there that always like shot blanks and was just nothing but flash?
No, actually I don't.
There's a ship in there that had like it shot lasers, but the lasers had zero firepower whatsoever. It was all just there for show.
It was kind of boxy looking kind of junk.
Yes, I think so. Yeah.
The main ship in that movie had boobs.
Yeah, with the main ship thing. That thing was weird looking. Anyway, so
of course that's what you remember.
but I'm thinking that his whole power suite is built around deception. So it's illusions where he can disguise himself, and this is how he got recruited into the CIA. He had this ability to disguise himself, to deceive others, to get into other places where people can't. And my thought on this, and then he has the martial combat ability to kind of back that up. So that's how he became a good field agent. He could deceive himself into places and then generally kick ass once he was in there. But the problem with him is that he's had these powers. He doesn't even know how long he's had these powers for. So he's not even sure exactly who he really is underneath all this illusions. He doesn't know how old he is.
Oh, like maybe he's been projecting these illusions to himself his whole life, and he doesn't know what's real. Like memories may not be real.
Yeah, he could. Yeah, because he creates all these other things, he could be getting different memories from different people, different eras. He's not even sure how long he's been alive.
Does he even know that if he's human or
not? No, not necessarily. He doesn't even know. He doesn't know. He assumes I don't presume my sex, but he presumes his sex, his gender, his the fact that he is human, all of those things, because that's what everyone else around him is, and so he latches onto that. So when he's with other people, he will maintain that sort of appearance to fit in, but ultimately, underneath it all, he doesn't really know who he is or what he is even.
Okay. All right. So illusions, deception. So, and this is all innate ability, not something like he doesn't like have a mask that like morphs into different faces and stuff like that. This is
right. My thought was that both of his power sets are innate in the sense that the illusions that comes from within, and then he was trained to fight.
Okay.
When he was recruited.
So deep cover agent at one point.
Yes.
Spy, spook, that kind of thing. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Babs, you want to go next, or Shannon?
I can go. The idea I had for my character was, so his main power would be, essentially he's an empath, and uses the ability to cause just intense, just euphoria on people.
Okay.
To subdue them, or even uses it to his advantage in day-to-day life. But also has the ability to do the opposite of that and make them just full dread, depressed, sad. But he uses his powers for his own personal gain a lot, where he is, like I said, he's his own PR guy. Like he's in commercials. He's doing ads for cigarettes and stuff. He's, marketing stuff to like kids and things. I mean, it's the era for that. So I'm someone who is constantly, trying to just, be the number one person that I could possibly be as far as like public relations. I am seen as a very charismatic person. I'm all over the place. I'm famous. Usually people try to get like pictures with me and stuff. And, I'm personable, but, and also, I don't necessarily hate the fame. I love it, but sometimes it gets a little overwhelming. But, I also wanted some kind of, maybe I release some kind of pheromone that makes people even, not docile, but kind of, like their guards let down around me. They're very open to things I have to say or do just because of just pure charisma. So
it's almost like you're getting everybody stoned.
Yeah. I like that. So like everybody's in like a stupor almost around me.
Drop their inhibitions around you and,
yeah. And I can't necessarily, let's say I can't.
Hugh Hefner, man.
Yeah. I can't necessarily even control that portion of it. Maybe that's something that maybe I can intensify it, but I can't completely get rid of it. So I have a problem realizing if people are like being completely honest or real around me because they're trying to either maybe because of those things, they're kind of, either trying to impress me or they're, more than likely just very positive towards me most of the time.
They want a grant.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. You get one.
All right. So
who else wants one?
You're an empath, so you feel
Done.
Do you feel other people's emotions, or you just project and make them change theirs?
So I like the idea that maybe I can feel them in certain ways. I can't like read people's minds or anything like that. That'd be completely different, obviously, but, I can't sense motive per se. I can just alter current, like, so maybe for the most part, I'm too arrogant to even try to care what people feel, and I'm just controlling it.
Okay.
So I don't really care what they feel.
All right.
I'm making you feel this.
Is this something that you can turn on and off?
The empathy thing? Yeah. I like the idea that the empath part is something I can control. Maybe I can't control it under like incredible stress. Like maybe I'm like really mad about something or, cause I can't technically control my emotions as far as my emotions are normal. I can't like make myself feel fantastic or, make myself not depressed about something. So.
Which is why your character uses narcotics. Oh, sorry.
I mean, I guess I could, but,
All right. So, all right. I'm just looking at it from the standpoint of, okay, so you can control other people's emotions. You can do the, intense pleasure, intense, frustration, and what, you're out on a mission and you're doing, you're going into a volcano, hideout of a villain. What are you going to do? I mean, are you going to be a hand-to-hand combatant? I mean, do you sock it to the bad guys, or you don't do any of that stuff?
I don't want to be someone who gets my hands dirty very often. Maybe I can fight, but I'm not like the greatest martial artist or something like that. I would have like a basic knowledge of maybe boxing or something but for the most part, I feel like I wouldn't have to fight too often. But then again, I can't control things like robots. I can't control things like animals and things like that. It's mostly just human beings.
So what are you doing in a fight?
So in a fight, depending on how those powers would work, I mean, maybe I make them, lose their guard or,
well, I mean, you're causing pleasure and frustration and pain, and then you're emitting these pheromones. I mean, sounds like a mind control, or at least some sort of, you can exude some sort of a control and make people like you. Yeah.
So, I mean, I could even turn people to my side. Like maybe I have like two guys come at me and I'm like, why would you do this to me, man? Come help me. This guy's trying to attack me. And the other guy's like, yeah, this guy seems all right. And just like starts socking the other guy. But then I got to deal with
like
the one guy.
A walking charm person.
Yeah, I was going to say maybe you just like de-escalate the situation. So
a lot of times.
De-escalate the fight.
Yeah. My whole thing was, let's say I show up to like a bank robbery. I'm causing so much of this like euphoric feeling that they have no reason to try and do anything else.
Or you could even keep the crowd calm while other people are fighting.
Yeah. I could even do something like that.
Yeah, crowd control. Okay.
Yeah. The original concept was based on, Orgasmo. So, I mean, it's like, but I don't know how much we want me just making people like jizz their pants left and right. I'm not saying it can't happen,
well,
but,
yeah.
I want that.
Only if we can license the song from Lonely Island.
Like, jeez, man, jeez.
we need a postmodern jukebox version of that song.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So you are the I don't know when they did the experiment on the rat, but you're the jizz button. Ding, 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 ding. Right. Okay. All right. And you already had a character name, correct?
Machismo.
Machismo. Okay. Now,
and I was thinking mine would be the deception, by the way, Eric.
the deception. Okay. Okay. Now for Machismo, if he's world renowned, he's this, famous, he's in ads and he's in all of this stuff. Is it because of his, hero status, or does he cover up the fact that, does he have a secret identity?
No.
So he's like the Dos Equis guy?
No,
yes, pretty much.
Ricardo Montalban saying rich Corinthian leather. That's who this guy is.
So you're the world's most interesting man.
Yeah.
The world's most interesting man. Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, I'm very well known. I don't hide that I have powers. I don't know if I'd be the first person to come out to say, "Hey, I'm super powered. I can do these things." But or maybe no one knows because they just think I'm just so charismatic. Like, oh, it's just so interesting. Why is he hanging out with these superheroes all the time? Man, he's so cool.
Like who?
Well, he has to be charismatic because pheromones don't go through the television set, right?
Absolutely,
Well,
yeah.
He just exudes that confidence. He's so confident,
Yeah.
He's never met a person who hasn't liked him.
Right.
So it's like, hey, that level of self-confidence would, he wouldn't necessarily, that could be part of his thing is this guy, he must be bad as fuck because look at these people he's hanging out with.
Yeah, I'm actually really excited to play this character.
All right. So we've got a gadgeteer with a fly and blast. We've got the sneaky get in and get in close and martial arts you, and we got the guy who's going to make you jizz your pants. Okay, Shannon.
Man. So I had the same problem that I always have, which is I had too many ideas. So I was thinking about playing Sissy Birmingham again, but I think that might overlap too much with like Brandon's powers because she was a mind. She controlled minds. Yeah. So that was one idea. The other one I had has also kind of been rolled out. I thought of doing like a character that had nullification powers, but if there aren't that many superpowers in the world, like that might not really make sense.
Except when it does.
So you're not nullifying superpowers or just like effects? Because if you could nullify like electrical effects, nullify sonic effects, things like that, then that's completely different than just nullifying a power.
It's true.
Yeah, I guess I could still go with like that power set. My original idea was like nullifying powers. It actually comes from an anime. My Hero Academia is kind of based off of Eraserhead, if anyone knows about that. That was my original, like kind of what I thought would be fun to do. And he just nullifies powers, and also is kind of an expert at capturing people.
The badass fighter that has like, he's good at like tying people up after because people will try to fight him with their superpowers and then they can't do anything. Like, so everything they rely on is just nullified.
Chris, what do you have on your chin?
A little pizza box stand.
God damn it.
So my other idea was just playing a speedster. I had really fun playing a speedster in the last campaign, but it ended up only being like 2 nights, so I didn't really get to fully scratch that itch.
Okay. Well, I mean, it's up to you. If you did the mind control thing, that fits in well. As I'm seeing the group right now, Jason is the only overt, like, powered superhero, because he's the one flying in and blasting stuff. Everybody else is pretty, not necessarily subdued, but certainly subtle. And so that fits into the agent level, parameter of this game. So we can, knowing that this is, so I'm not necessarily going to descend Dr. Doom and a thousand Doombots down on you guys because, you guys are going to it just seems like to me the makeup of this group doesn't really, doesn't fit that. So yeah, with your, so you could certainly do an agent level, a mind controller, or a nullifier, somebody who nullifies different effects and things like that. Who, as it is right now, sounds like, Chris and Babs, their characters are very susceptible to guns. They're not, overtly superpowered. So,
Jason.
So no, it's fine. I'm just saying that.
I'm just joking. I'm just joking.
What essentially what this is Shannon has the opportunity to either balance the scale and take an overtly superpowered character, or turn it the other direction. So that way, it's much more. You've got your agent level heroes, and then Jason is your heavy.
All right, I'm gonna play Superman. I'll call the character Superman.
That's so original and unique. That's the best idea I've heard all night.
Heard that before.
How about you call him Man Super and he's like just a really, really good repair guy.
He's got a lot of dad jokes.
That's right. It's a huge, powerful wrench and plunger.
Yeah. Yes. And your arch
honestly,
enemy is Slumlord.
Honestly, Shannon, I still think you could play ASAP. I think you could do that, and you just have to change a few things.
Like make him a woman instead of a man.
I think you can still do that.
So, what was the gist of ASAP?
So the character concept behind ASAP, he was a speedster. He was a private eye originally, and he recently had gotten his powers.
He's like the Question, right?
Yeah. So it was like the Question and the Flash came together.
Okay.
Which is awesome.
So
Yeah.
A super fast investigator.
Yeah.
I mean, that would fit well with the group in that.
Aww.
I thought she was coming out to tell me something, so I handed her a notebook and a pen, and she's like, "I'm just telling you good night."
So that would put, and that way, because I'm, looking at different scenarios, having somebody who's, fast and somebody who can fly could mean that both Chris and Babs could go in as more of a, like a con job to get into where they're wanting to be. And then you guys come in like the cavalry when shit goes south.
Yeah. I like that.
One of the things that he was built to do, which I don't know if you want to like deal with that sort of thing. So like my favorite superhero is Spider-Man, and that's because he has to deal with life in addition to being a superhero. So that was another part of ASAP. Like he still had a business that he had to run, and he also had a family that he had to like go visit because they didn't know he was a superhero out gallivanting.
Well, I mean, is this something that you want to do? Would be to convert that character into not necessarily. I mean, you could still have the business. You could also have a family, or whatever.
Don't do it.
Don't have a family.
Don't do it.
Don't do it.
His daughter was just in there, gave him a hug to go get, to bed, and he's like, "Don't have a family."
No. Don't give Eric ammunition.
Well,
Ammunition. It's my favorite.
That's actually coming up once Shannon decides on what kind of character she plays. The last part of this is going to be some of that stuff. So,
No.
So if I did play ASAP, would I have to make him a girl, or could I play him as a man?
well, I guess it depends on. Do you want to play on a public forum and represent? Play a man. It's up to you. What you feel comfortable doing.
I feel I would be the best at being a guy. I will stand up peeing and everything.
That's basically all it takes, really. So, yeah.
I rarely stand up and pee anymore.
It's so much more comfortable to sit down. Plus,
Really?
I have surprise poops all the time.
Well, plus you can get a little airflow in there when you're sitting down to dry stuff out, which is nice.
Yeah.
Right.
I didn't want to.
Mostly anyway.
I didn't want to out Brandon. I was going to say that he sits down to pee, but then he outed himself, so I feel like it's okay.
I don't sit down to pee every time I pee, but a lot of times if I'm at home, especially in the morning, yeah, I'm sitting down to pee. If it's late at night, I'm sitting down to pee. I'm too damn tired. I don't want to.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you got to. Yeah, it's late at night, early morning. Absolutely.
The only time I stand up to pee is when I'm in a hurry.
Is when I'm running away from people.
I would pee all the time in public restrooms. It'd be great not having to sit on.
Oh, you don't hover?
No, because there's pee splatter and it's terrible. And people shouldn't hover. That's bad. You're a terrible person if you hover.
If we do with the two superpowered, like overtly superpowered characters, then there is the opportunity for the other two to maybe get lost in the shuffle. So I'm going to have to look at, because what we were just talking about is, Babs and Chris going in and infiltrating. Well, what are the other two doing while the other two are playing?
Eating pizza.
Eating pizza. I'm not talking about. I'm talking about the players themselves. It's like then I've got two players sitting there watching the other two players play.
Well, I'm out here in my garage. I can always work on a project and mute my mic.
If we could just watch you walk back and forth.
I'm not sure that was the point, but
how much more powered than us would they be?
Well, that's the thing. Once I know, kind of where you guys are, I can look at it that way and go, because, if I throw Hydra level guys at you, there would be plenty for the superheroed or superpowered bunch to deal with, while the others were sneaking off and maybe looking for the secret plans and things like that. And that's fine. I just want to know, kind of where to set the power level, because if I set it too low where, you're investigating, sneaking into stuff, well, ASAP and the deception and machismo can certainly do that. Jason, you haven't given me a character name yet, so I can't call you by your character name.
Still thinking.
No.
What if? I don't want to shit on Jason's character at all. But what if we?
But it's about to.
Yeah, but I am. What if we leveled him down some? Then I'm basically Superman. It sounds like his character being so powered is downplaying a lot of us, because then it's like, well, what are we for? If he can just roll in and go pew 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 and everything's done, what's the point?
What if his suit was missing the limbs of it? So in other words, the suit was really just more covered his torso, so his limbs were completely normal.
Well, everybody's going to be governed by the same power level. Okay? So,
right.
It's not, he's not going to be completely invulnerable. He's not Iron Man.
But hold on, I asked to be completely invulnerable.
I know, and it doesn't work that way.
I'm fine with there being limitations, obviously, and I think if I recall correctly in character generation, if you have limitations, then that allows you to bump certain things up, correct?
Right.
Yeah.
So not being able to fly and blast at the same time would make sense to me, because the suit has to conserve energy.
Right.
So it's not able. I can't just fly over a Viet Cong base and shell the Ville.
Right.
I actually have to land and do that.
Well,
and then I would be vulnerable.
right. And if you had some sort of the suit had, or the skin had to recharge itself. So if you could, let's say theoretically, you could fly from your island base to Las Vegas, but by the time when you got there, it would take X amount of time for it to even recharge. And, so then you wouldn't have your blast ability, or you could work it where it has a ticker. It's like, okay, do I want to do my big blast and very likely not be able to do anything else later, and put myself at risk. So.
What if you, the powers that you do from the suit actually it almost takes its energy from your body, where not necessarily killing you, but it's weakening you a lot. Like anytime you do something big, depending on what it is, it takes a certain amount of your stamina or something like that. Like you're giving something to have this big ability. That way you're not rolling in and just going boom, like everything's done, because then you'd pass out or something like that.
So kind of like the Venom Spider-Man suit, it's a parasite.
Yeah. What if it's a parasite? What if it's taking in, I don't know, like blood or life force or something like that every time you use something. And that way you're hindered by, well, I don't want to overuse things because then it's going to screw me up.
Right. I don't know. I'm open to Eric's creativity. I gotta let my dog in. He got out. Sorry.
Okay.
Oh, who let the dog out?
Play the dog.
All right. So.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. It was like Spawn. Spawn he only has so much. He has finite amount of energy he can use.
Right, and especially if you got this off of some like an alien or a time traveler who you don't have that power source anymore, or maybe if it was, say, for instance, it did happen in Roswell, and now there's only one place you can go to recharge your shit, and they're not going to let you in.
A nuclear power plant.
Well, I was thinking.
Yeah, maybe I have to go in and, shake hands all the way to where you need to recharge. And I'm just taking my friend here.
Right.
We just want to check some stuff out.
I'm thinking, like Area 54, where it's,
54.
what am I?
51.
Area
It's
51.
the sequel.
Studio 54.
The sequel.
I like Area 54. That sounds like a happening place.
Yeah, that's where Machismo hangs out.
Yeah, that's my clue.
Area 54 is where the aliens go to swing and do coke.
That's where, the aliens go to do coke. Right.
We have to visit Area 54 now.
And it has to happen. There's no choice.
Yeah. So anyway, let's say it's, Area 51 and, they're not just going to let you in, they're not, even if you don't have the clearance. So now it's like, okay, I've got this much, this much power. And if I starts to get low, we're going to have to make a run. I need to go power up my shit.
That even plays into what we were talking about with, CIA or the government being not necessarily the good guys too, because they're keeping that that from us so that he can't recharge because they have that. That's theirs, and they see that as government property or something.
Right. Virtue Adept talks about power levels. You set the maximum points, and yeah, that's exactly the way power level does work. So, we're going to set the power level at 8. So, it's so that way everybody's going to be on equal footing when it comes to certain things. All right, people are telling me my audio is really low.
You sound okay to me. Yeah,
it might be just what's coming through. So I'm going to up my gain a little bit. So,
or I just heard a cat.
Yeah, that's mine.
Yeah. Oh, is it? I was wondering if it was ours or if it was Eric's.
No, mine's behind the other door. So, I'm upping my gain. So those of you watching, if it's too much, if I'm blowing it out, let me know. So anyway, yeah, so we certainly can dampen Jason. The concept, of course, is that he's got this suit, but it's not necessarily he's not a power level, He's not a power level 20 where everybody else is at power level 8. So Shannon, I don't want to step on your fun. So if whatever you want to do, you can do. If you want to play ASAP as a man, you want to play ASAP as a woman. If you want to play Sissy Birmingham, it's fine. Whatever you would rather do, whatever you wanted to do to have fun.
Shannon, hold on, before you say anything.
Okay.
I don't want to just throw everything that we've already talked about what I was going to do in the trash. But if you want to play Sissy Birmingham, I'll play an old, decrepit Captain America that's dying of cancer.
We wouldn't be that old.
Oh, yeah, we would.
It's like 10 years.
No, it was more like 15 or 20, isn't it?
It's 15.
Yeah, it'd be 15.
15.
My guy's definitely got cancer, though.
But you're like 45.
Like I definitely.
Yeah, but back then 45 was old.
All right. Well, I don't know. Jason, do you want to play cancer-ridden Captain America?
Well, again, I don't want to just throw everything in the trash that we talked about, but I also don't want you to think that you can't play Sissy. But
no, I was planning on playing Sissy without you.
Oh.
They're no longer teammates.
So the power level thing, I mean, if you wanted to do the thing that we talked about, if we did the whole, the suit takes essence or something like that, I would be okay if Jason's power level was higher than ours. Because I mean, you've got something governing that. Like, he's capable of more, but is he going to do more? You know what I mean? Like, he could do something bigger, flashy, or something like that. And maybe that's like his, big push to do something heroic. But
that'd be like
at
a
what
power
cost?
stunt, right?
Do what?
That'd be a power stunt.
Well, yeah, you could use a hero point for something like that.
Right.
Where you could okay, I'm gonna take the gloves off and really blast somebody.
Yeah, you don't want Captain America doing that because that lead suit he wears. That's for your protection.
We could just go ahead and say that at this point in time, Captain America is probably either what movie was that with was it Nick Nolte said about this time period where the old atomic experiment people were kept. It was like L.A. Confidential or something like that. Was it Nick Nolte? Where they were where all the people were dying from cancer were sequestered in this it's like L.A. somewhere around L.A. I can't remember what it was.
Definitely not L.A. Confidential, but I think I know what you're talking about.
It's the one with where they threw the girl out of the airplane, and they found her and she hit the ground, and Nick Nolte is like an LA cop. Okay. None of you guys know what I'm talking about. Anybody on the chat know what the fuck I'm talking about? Or did I dream this?
I do remember a movie. I do remember a movie where Nick Nolte was a cop and there was something going on, but I can't. But the whole cancer.
I'm fairly certain it was Jennifer Connelly that got thrown out of the.
You're not thinking of the Incredible Hulk?
No.
Okay, because they were both in that.
They were both in that. That's true.
That's very true.
Absolutely true.
All right,
Unrelated to whatever movie you're talking about. So what year were we going with?
1960.
1916. Okay. I got to figure out how old
not 16.
would be.
1916. No, not 1916.
I said 1916.
Oh, I thought you said 16.
No.
If we're playing 1916, then I definitely want racism in there against the Irish.
We don't want the Irish, right?
That's right. We don't want the Irish. Oh, prairie shit! Everybody.
All right, Shannon, we're still waiting for you to.
Oh, I was busy doing math.
Oh, Mulholland Falls was the name of that movie.
There you go.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure that by 1960, Captain America is probably sequestered in a nuclear power plant and he's powering it himself.
Right. As he's slowly like decomposing.
Right.
Yeah, Sissy would be like 39.
Well, how old was your character?
She started at 18.
You were 18 when we played that campaign. Your character was 18.
I wasn't. My character was.
I know. Okay.
Yeah. Actually, I never.
35. So.
All right, we're about 2 minutes from 11.
Oh no, I have to make a decision.
Well, and we still need to talk about the last section. So
let's talk about the last section.
We can't without a Shannon character.
With Shannon.
Do.
So hard.
I still say you could play ASAP and it would work out.
I think so too. I like that idea.
I liked ASAP anyway. You had a lot of fun playing it, and it was a cool character.
Okay, I'll play ASAP.
Yay! Somebody made a decision. Woo!
1 minute to go.
All right. Well, like I said, we can run a couple minutes over. So what is there now that we've figured this out? Okay, so we've got kind of character concepts, we've got some shared background stuff. What is there any morality or ideological conflicts between the characters? And this is the old like assassin paladin thing. You know, is there any ideological conflicts between the characters themselves? One of you, like maybe a defected commie or, something like that.
I think just in general, like lifestyle wise, ASAP is very private. And so thinks it's kind of weird, like how machismo is like so much in the public, and like we would do something and ASAP would want to like kind of like hide that we did it. Whereas machismo's like, come on, get the news crew in, sort of thing.
So not
Look at
wanting
this great feat of mine.
Not wanting to attract attention. Maybe because they have, maybe because ASAP has a family or, like you said, a business or at least dependents that could be targeted by enemies of the group. I mean, that's the whole point of Spider-Man, right? Is his motivation is the fact that, the reason he hides his face is because he doesn't want his loved ones to be targeted.
I like the idea of I am aware that machismo has his eyes on the tech that I possess, but maybe for whatever reason I can't be separated from it. So I'm mindful that he's kind of wants it, but I'm also kind of in the back of my mind wanting to use his resources maybe to get back to where I belong.
Well,
maybe I do want him to get it off me because it's killing me eventually.
We'll find a way.
I guess here's the question is, does everyone know that, you weren't the original possessor of this stuff? Do they even know?
Yeah, see, that's the thing. Like, I'm thinking specifically about Booster Gold. I know when Booster Gold made his appearance, I can't remember if he told people he was from the future.
Oh, yeah, he was all about it, right? Wasn't he?
Well, I don't remember. I know that he showed up and he was flashy and he had all these powers, and he had actually traveled. He was from the future, but he had traveled forward in time, stolen the tech, and then came back to the 20th century.
Right.
And made himself rich and famous. I know he was an athlete where he'd come from, and he'd lost a bunch of money spent, betting on stuff or whatever.
Security guard.
That's neither here nor there. I mean, there has to be some conflict on a certain level, I think, between me and machismo, and maybe even between me and Hussey, because I know he works for the government, and I know you can't trust the government. And maybe the only one I really identify with and get along with is Shannon, because she has powers and abilities that are, they're exploiting too. And
so you're feeling like you're being a little bit like used by the man.
Yeah, but I'm kind of using them as well. I know that where I'm at now, this is where, if anybody's going to be able to get me back to where I belong, it's possibly people connected to the U.S. government.
Okay.
You know, that they have some shit that they've been sitting on in a warehouse next to a crate with a Nazi symbol on it that's got the Ark of the Covenant in it, you know?
Right.
Where did we land? Is Jason from current time but has future tech, or he is from the future?
I think we're still working that out.
Okay. Maybe he doesn't even know.
Well,
Maybe I don't.
Maybe you woke up. You have this shit. You don't know where the fuck you came from.
Right.
Fair. I was going to suggest maybe Jason and I both knew each other before we had powers.
Oh, maybe if you did come from the future, you're both from the future?
No, if he was from current time, we both knew each other before he found the flight suit and before I developed.
Maybe my body is, but my mind is not.
Oh.
Maybe the symbiote went up into your nose and took over your brain.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe.
So you remember him as Tom, but he's not Tom anymore.
It's Lucius.
Nice.
Then I would really be trying to get the suit off of him and save my buddy Tom.
There you go. There's still some Tom in there.
I like that. I don't know if you like that, Jason.
Yeah.
So you were friends, or like, are you related, or was there a relationship? How is that defined?
Just good buddies, just friends.
We went to college together.
That works. I mean,
sure.
Okay. All right. So to wrap this up, what I'm going to do is I'm going to assign you homework for next time, and it's not that big of a deal. What it is think about your character, and what I'll do is I'll give you kind of like I'll bullet point some of the things that you said, give it to you, and I'll work up the actual characters, and we'll work on those together. And then what I would like for you to do is you develop your character's personality, and a little bit of the background. Now, we've talked about some of that stuff, but I want you to give me one or two personal details about your character, either their history or there's something about their personality that you don't want the other player characters or the players to know about that I can inject into the story. Now, this could be something in your background. It could be something like you're really a red, or maybe,
Jason, I promise not to really be a red. I'm not. I already said all my secrets.
Yeah. So, I mean, and if you want to be an open book like that, and you assume that everybody knows your secrets or whatever, that's fine. Then give me something about your personality, maybe a phobia or an enemy, or something like that. Some sort of secret about your past that you want only me to know, and something that I can kind of inject into some of the role play and make it a little bit more personal.
Yeah. Well, I was saying I wouldn't want the other player characters to know about my family or my business or anything, or even my name. Sure,
that's fine. So you can give those to me, as a private thing, and then that way, if I inject an NPC that's from your personal life, and everybody else I don't know who the fuck that is, and you can play it off or however you play it off, and then they'd be like, well, why are we doing this? This doesn't make any sense. That kind of thing. So it adds a little bit of tension, but also can make it very personal for the players. So, all right. We ran a little long, but we started a little late, so I guess that's okay. We will be back next week. So next Tuesday, which is November the 6th, and that's going to be at 9 p.m. Central. We'll be back for episode 1 of The Challengers. If you haven't already, follow us. Hit the follow button. Once we get to a certain level, then we can, we achieve some of our goals, and that's always part of the process here. So, any parting shots before we go? No.
No.
All right. Well, we'll see you guys next week.